Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before we begin our today's lecture, let's briefly recap what we did in our last lecture. In our last session, we did two normative theories, libertarian theory and authoritarian theory. What we discussed in authoritarian theory was that the state should have complete control over the means of communication, so that nobody can rebel or nobody can revolt against the state. So authoritarian theory believed in complete control of the means of communication. And as a reaction to that came the libertarian theory, which professed or which propounded that people should be given freedom to express themselves, freedom to voice their opinions and views. And if they are not free to give their opinions and ideas, then the society will crumble down. And in order to make the society go in the right direction, or in order to find the truth, the people must be given the freedom of expressing their opinion freely. But at the same time, we also saw that when there is complete freedom to given to the people to voice their opinions, there were certain problems, there were certain things that started bothering the people, especially with reference to where does the right of one person end and where does the right of another person begins. Like in the name of freedom, maybe one person or one organization might encroach on another person's right. So the debate was going on in this context. Maybe in the name of freedom, you might offend another person's right. And at the same time, what was being discussed was it is quite possible that in the name of freedom of expression, maybe ethnic differences would arise and maybe the rights of the minorities would be violated. So when these kind of criticism arose against the libertarian theory, so a voice arose which said that we need to control this freedom of expression, and this control should come from the government or from any agency. The reason being that if the media or if the means of communication are let free or they are not controlled, what will happen is they tend to react irresponsibly. So to make them act responsibly, state or any other agency should intervene and must try to control this. So this was the debate that was going on, and then as a reaction to all this came a radical libertarian theory, which was based on free market economy propounded by Adam Smith, and it gave the idea of free market of ideas, which said that if everybody is given an opportunity to speak out, then automatically the truth will prevail and the false will go away, because if something is correct, it will gain popularity and it will be in demand, and the thing that is incorrect will become unpopular and ultimately it will die off. So these were the debates that were going on between the authoritarian and radical libertarian theories, or between the technocrat controls and the radical libertarians. So in our today's session, we will do the limitations of the radical libertarian theories. We will also discuss how media was envisioned as an independent social institution, and it came forward as a fourth state. We will do the Hutchins Commissions on Freedom. We will do the broad principles of social responsibility theory, along with basic things that were propounded by Chicago School. Before we do the Hutchins Commissions and how media came as an independent institution, we will first discuss the limitations on which we were discussing also in the last session of radical libertarianism theory. Now, if you recall, what radical libertarian theory was, that you can compare the free market of ideas with the free market of products. What we did in the last session was Adam Smith had propounded that if you have free market economy, the products that are launched by the producers, if they gain popularity, then the producers make more of them and the prices come down. If somebody tries to increase the rate of a product, it will become unpopular and it will eventually die off. And in the same light, what the radical libertarianism propagated was that if there are good ideas, those ideas, in the light of those ideas, such programs will be made which will gain popularity, and ultimately it will cost less. And then what will happen is the bad ideas and the programs based on bad ideas will become unpopular and they will gradually go away. Now, the limitations in this particular theory are, number one, to equate products with ideas is somewhat unfair, because product is something which is tangible, which you can feel, you can touch, and you can pinpoint its weaknesses after a certain use. But when it comes to ideas, they're not tangible, and then ideas can be very relative. And what we mean by relative is that which is something which might be correct, which might appeal to one, might not appeal to another being. So to say that one idea is correct or incorrect is again incorrect, because ideas are not a solid thing, something that you can touch. It is something which is very intangible, and sometimes people might like something and sometimes the same people might not like that thing. So you cannot really compare the two. Another thing that was criticized about this particular theory was कि जो ideas हैं, जब newspapers या किसी TV program में आते हैं, तो वो एक अलग से नहीं होते, बल्कि वो एक किसी प्रोग्राम का हिस्सा होते हैं. जैसे कि अगर अखबार के अंदर, जब आप अखबार खरीदते हैं तो अखबार में बहुत सी खबरें आती हैं. कुछ खबरें आपको अच्छी होती, कुछ खबरें आपको समझ में नहीं आती, कुछ आइटम्स उसमें इंटरेस्टिंग होते हैं, कुछ बिल्कुल इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं होते. तो यू कांट से कि आई विल pick up this thing and I will not pick up that thing. But when you are buying a newspaper, you are buying the whole newspaper. और उसके अंदर जो आइडियाज़ हैं वो कुछ अच्छे भी हैं और कुछ अच्छे नहीं भी हैं. इस तरह से जो आपने फ्री मार्केट इकोनॉमी का जो कॉन्सेप्ट था प्रोडक्ट्स के बारे में, that cannot be applied on ideas. Secondly, there's another problem when it comes to commercialization. Now, it was also debated कि जब मीडिया के अंदर एडवर्टाइजर्स जो हैं वो किसी प्रोग्राम को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं या किसी प्रोग्राम को फाइनेंस कर रहे हैं, तो they are not bothered about whether that idea that they are propounding or they are putting forward is good or bad. They're only interested in profit. So what happens here is that it's not necessary an idea which might be not all that good, but it is gaining popularity and advertisers are making money out of it. So what happens is that idea would prevail, so it will not go away. Similarly, another criticism that was made on this particular theory was sometimes when people are getting free messages, so they are less critical about the correctness or incorrectness of an idea. So the marketplace of ideas is not as simple as the marketplace of products is. यानी कि टूथपेस्ट या शैम्पू का अगर कोई प्रोडक्ट मार्केट में आता है तो उसके बारे में वैल्यूएट करना ज़्यादा आसान है बनिस्बत इसके कि कोई आइडिया आए. The whole thing was very seriously debated upon. But in the 1920s and 30s, the debate even grew stronger, and the responsibility of the media grew even more. What started happening was the strong debate between how much freedom should be given to the press and how much control should be exercised on the media was debated upon. And then ultimately media ही को responsible बनाया गया और वो कहा गया कि they have to act more responsibly, they have to become more professional, they must contribute more, they must be more alert. And that's what had happened was that the media itself started becoming more conscious of its role in the society. और जो media practitioners थे उन्होंने ये बात खुद realize की कि हमें जो है वो कुछ ऐसा रोल प्ले करना चाहिए ताकि हम माशरे में कोई एक अच्छा काम कर सकें और माशरे में कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकें, और हमें गवर्नमेंट जो है या कोई स्टेट का कोई कंट्रोल ना हो या कोई ऑफिशियली कोई इंटरवीन ना करे उनकी फ्रीडम के ऊपर। चुनांचे उन्होंने इसी अरसे में मीडिया ने कुछ इन्वेस्टिगेटिव रिपोर्टिंग शुरू हो गई मीडिया के अंदर, और प्रेस ने कुछ करप्शन और कुछ स्कैंडल्स को सामने लेकर आ गए, जिसकी वजह से एकदम से मीडिया की पॉपुलैरिटी और बढ़ गई। और फिर वो जो कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ वॉच डॉग का था वो भी डेवलप होना शुरू हो गया कि अगर मीडिया जो है वो करप्शन और जो इल्स हैं ऑफ द सोसाइटी उसको एक्सपोज करेगी तो वो माशरे के अंदर एक बेहतरी पैदा होगी, और वो जो है वो एक बहुत ही इफेक्टिव किरदार जो है वो अदा कर सकता है। तो इसी सिलसिले में जब मीडिया स्टार्टेड exposing the corruption of the government, media started doing some investigative reporting to achieve the status of the fourth estate of the government. Fourth estate का मतलब ये है कि fourth pillar of the government, meaning that to run the government efficiently and to make a positive contribution in the society, media can play a very, very effective role. इसी को फिर आगे जब बात हुई तो पर्सपेक्टिव जो बना वो ये बना कि अगर हम लोगों को सच्चाई बताएंगे तो लोग जो हैं वो अपना रास्ता खुद इख्तियार कर लेंगे। बल्कि एक अखबार का जो मास्ट हेड था उसके ऊपर जो स्लोगन था वो ये था, गिव लाइट एंड द पीपल विल फाइंड देयर वे। यानी इफ the media informs the people about the wrongdoing and the incompetencies and inefficiencies, the people will then take action and the government will improve, and it will look into its weaknesses and it will try to amend its actions and policies. So the whole philosophy behind it was now that the responsibility of the press is to tell the truth, to expose the inefficiencies, the corruption, so the people can criticize and the government changes its policies and the government works more efficiently. At the same time, what happened was that World War II had started. Now, during the World War II, what happened was that Hitler used the media against the Jews, and then, of course, the other Allied countries also used the media for propaganda purposes against Germany. And when in this context, the powerful role of the media became more apparent, and people started saying that if the media is given a free hand, it can be used for propagating false propaganda. And after the Second World War, there was a lot of anti-communist sentiment which also emerged. So what happened was the people started saying that we need to control the media to control this widespread popularity of communism. And this anti-communist sentiment also resulted in trying to control the media, because people were apprehensive that if media is given complete freedom, they might popularize the communist ideas. So keeping that in mind, the media practitioners themselves thought that we must take an action, otherwise there is a danger that they might be controlled by the state. And in this context, the chief executive of the Time magazine, he took an initiative and he formed an independent commission. Or the purpose of this independent commission was that they should form certain recommendations for the media so that the media can regulate its actions itself and no state intervention is required. कमीशन जो थी वो बेस बनी आगे सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी थ्योरी की। इस कमीशन का नाम है द हचिंस कमीशन ऑन फ्रीडम, एंड इट वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड इन 1942 एंड इट्स फाइंडिंग्स वर रिपोर्टेड इन 1947. जब ये कमीशन बनी तो इस कमीशन के जो मेंबर्स थे दे वर लार्जली डिवाइडेड इनटू टू ग्रुप्स. वन ग्रुप व्हिच वाज ऑल फॉर द फ्रीडम ऑफ द प्रेस, and they did not want that any sort of regulations were necessary to control the press. Now, the other group was all for the regulations. They favored regulations. The reason being that they were very apprehensive that if the press is given free hand in giving all kinds of opinion, it's quite possible that undemocratic forces might come in what they meant by undemocratic forces was that maybe the voices of only one group of people would be heard, and the other groups who are also present in the society will go unheard. यानी कि जो दूसरा ग्रुप था वो रेगुलेशन को बहुत सपोर्ट करता था, इसलिए क्योंकि उनके जहन में ये डर था कि अगर कंप्लीट फ्रीडम ऑफ द प्रेस होगी तो सिर्फ उन लोगों की हमें आवाज़ें सुनाई जाएंगी जो कि जिनकी की एक्सेस है या जिनका के कंट्रोल है मीडिया पे, और बहुत से ऐसे लोग जिनकी के एक्सेस नहीं है मीडिया में, वो या मीन्स ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन के ऊपर उनकी आवाज़ें हमें नहीं सुनने को मिलेंगी. और जो ये ग्रुप था वो मेनली शिकागो स्कूल से बहुत इम्प्रेस था. शिकागो स्कूल जो है, व्हाट इज दैट? शिकागो स्कूल envisioned the modern cities in great communities. और उनका जो शिकागो स्कूल जो बात करता था वो ये करता था कि जो सिटीज़ हैं उनमें जो ग्रेट कम्युनिटीज़ को जो नाम उसने दिया, उसके अंदर बहुत सी स्मॉलर कम्युनिटीज़ होती हैं, और ये स्मॉलर कम्युनिटीज़, ये जो स्मॉलर सोशल ग्रुप्स होते हैं, ये तमाम मिलकर ही एक ग्रेट कम्युनिटी बनाते हैं. और ये जो ग्रेट कम्युनिटी है ये उस वक्त एफिशिएंट या इफेक्टिव कम्युनिटी होती जब इस कम्युनिटी के अंदर जितने भी सब ग्रुप्स होते हैं या जितनी भी छोटी कम्युनिटीज होती हैं वो मिलकर काम करती हैं. So they were supporters of pluralistic groups and they were recognizing the presence of pluralistic groups. Now what we mean by pluralistic groups is that a society is made up of varied groups, the society is made up of many groups, and all these groups have different views, different opinions, they come from different backgrounds, they have different socio-economic backgrounds, and all these people form great communities. And if any voices of any of these groups are not put forward, the communities cannot work efficiently, or the well-being of the entire communities would be affected. यानी कि माशरे के अंदर जो है एक जो बड़ा माशरा जो है वो एक ग्रेट कम्युनिटीज है, और उस ग्रेट कम्युनिटीज के अंदर छोटी छोटी और कम्युनिटीज हैं, और ये जो छोटी छोटी और कम्युनिटीज हैं इन सब की अपनी एक बैकग्राउंड है और उनके अपने अपने ख्यालात हैं, और वो ख्यालात जो हैं उनका भी इजहार होना बड़ा ज़रूरी है. अगर उनका इजहार नहीं होगा तो ये कम्युनिटीज़ एक सोसाइटी के अंदर कभी भी सर्वाइव नहीं कर सकेंगी, और तमाम जो माशरा है वो उससे अफेक्टेड होगा. इसलिए शिकागो स्कूल जो था उसने फ्री मार्केट प्लेस ऑफ आइडियाज़ को सपोर्ट नहीं किया. द रीज़न बीइंग बिकॉज दे ऑल्सो बिलीव्ड कि जो ग्रेट कम्युनिटीज़ हैं उनके अंदर जो छोटे ग्रुप्स हैं उसमें जो कुछ ग्रुप्स जो हैं वो पावर में हैं, और वो जो हैं वो अपनी वेस्टेड इंटरेस्ट को सामने रखकर बात करते हैं, और उन वेस्टेड इंटरेस्ट को रख के जब वो आगे बात करते हैं तो ये ख़तरा होता है कि जो छोटी कम्युनिटीज़ हैं उनकी आवाज़ या जो उनके जो ख्यालात हैं वो दब जाएं. सो द स्मॉल or the weak pluralistic groups would be either neglected or degraded. This is what the Chicago school propounded. And they also said that the elite or the people who have the power can become so ruthless that just to be in power, they can completely stop the voices of the minorities. And they become so strong, the elite can become so strong that they can also manipulate the media, and they can also manipulate the media in such a way that they would only transmit the propaganda of hatred, and they would only probably divide the other subgroups. So this was the danger that the Chicago school felt if free marketplace of ideas were given free hand in the media. And this was also apparent, again, as I referred to you earlier, when Hitler used the means of communication against the Jews. So these were the things that, I mean, they had these facts in their, they had these facts in front of them, and they also had this theory that it is not correct to give a free hand to the media, because the people who are in power will not let the minority group speak out their opinions, and it is just not that. They will probably also use the means of communication to propagate their vested interest. The Hutchins Commission members did have the sympathies with the Chicago school, And but at the same time, they were also opposing a direct control on the press, or they were very apprehensive of any kind of press regulation. यानी कि हचिंस कमीशन के जो मेंबर्स थे, उनकी सिंपथीज जो थी वो शिकागो स्कूल के साथ तो थी कि हाँ, अगर मीडिया को फ्री हैंड दिया जाएगा तो खतरा है कि जो लोग अक़लियत में हैं उनकी आवाज़ें जो है वो दब जाएं, और जो लोग जिनके पास मीडिया का कंट्रोल है वो मीडिया को यूज़ करें अपनी पावर को इस्टेब्लिश करने के लिए. लेकिन साथ साथ ही उनको इस बात का भी डर था कि अगर हमने इस चीज़ को देखा तो कहीं ये ना हो कि मीडिया को कंट्रोल स्टेट करते और हर एक को जो आवाज़ देने का हक है वो भी कहीं ना ख़त्म हो जाए. So this was the debate and the dilemma that they were going through. Finally, what they came up was they gave the entire responsibility to the media practitioners, and they asked them that they have to be more responsible, and they have to be more vigilant that they are not being misused either by the people who are in power, or they do not act so irresponsibly that they do not let the voices of the minorities come forward. Ultimately, what did they do? They made the media practitioners this responsibility that they have to be more cautious. Now, let's look at the recommendations that the Hutchins Commission made. We need to discuss them in detail because these recommendations later on became the basis of social responsibility theory, or the synthesis of all the recommendations of this Hutchins Commission were the basis for the social responsibility theory. Now let's look at the first recommendation that was made by the Hutchins Commission. This has been summarized by Dennis McQuay in 1987, and he summarized those recommendations in these words. The first recommendation that the Commission made was media should accept and fulfill certain obligations to society. The first recommendation said that media should realize that it is an institution which is there to serve the people, or they must accept that they have a certain responsibility towards the society. And then once when they've accepted that they have certain responsibilities towards the society, then they must also try to fulfill those obligations, those responsibilities. यानी कि मीडिया को ये पहले एक्सेप्ट कर लेना चाहिए कि वो उसका कुछ फ़राइज़ है माशरे की तरफ, और जब उसको ये एहसास हो जाए तो फिर उसको कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि वो उन माशरे के जो उसकी ऑब्लिगेशंस है माशरे की तरफ, उनको किस तरह से वो निभाए. दिस वाज द फर्स्ट रिकमेंडेशन. द सेकंड रिकमेंडेशन सेड these obligations are mainly to be met by setting high or professional standards of informativeness, truth, accuracy, objectivity and balance. जो सेकंड रिकमेंडेशन है वो वजाहत करती है फर्स्ट रिकमेंडेशन की कि अगर मीडिया को अपने फ़राइज़ या अपनी ऑब्लिगेशंस टुवर्ड्स द सोसाइटी पूरे करने हैं तो वो किस तरह से करना चाहिए, कि उसको इस तरह से करना चाहिए कि वो हाई प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स को मेंटेन करे. और वो हाई प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स क्या हैं कि जो भी वो इंफॉर्मेशन दे वो सच हो, वो उसमें कोई एम्बिग्विटीज़ ना हो, और वो ऑब्जेक्टिव हो, और वो बैलेंस्ड हो. बैलेंस्ड होना और ऑब्जेक्टिव होने से मुराद ये है कि किसी भी बात की इंफॉर्मेशन जो है वो मुकम्मल दी जाए. ये ना हो कि सिर्फ एक साइड ऑफ द पिक्चर दी जाए, या सिर्फ एक कोई भी जो खबर हो या कोई भी जो वाक़या हो जब वो बयान किया जाए तो उसके बारे में सिर्फ कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन दी जाए या कुछ मालूमात फराहम की जाए और कुछ मालूमात को छुपा लिया जाए. वी विल डिस्कस ऑल्सो दिस कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ ऑब्जेक्टिविटी लेटर, लेकिन अभी के लिए थोड़ा सा सेंसिटाइज करने के लिए आपके जहन में ये होना चाहिए कि ऑब्जेक्टिविटी क्या है. ऑब्जेक्टिविटी यही है कि जब आप किसी बात को इस तरह से बयान करें कि जिसमें आपके अपने बायस, आपकी अपनी सब्जेक्टिविटी या आपके अपना तासुब जो है वो उसमें शामिल ना हो, बल्कि आप जिस तरह से वो वाक़या हो उसको उसी तरह से बयान करें. तो जो सेकंड रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ हचिंस कमीशन थी कि द मीडिया प्रैक्टिशनर्स शुड मेंटेन हाई प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स And by high professional standards, what they meant was that they should be based on truth, accuracy, objectivity, and there should be balance in what they are projecting. The third recommendation was, in accepting and applying these obligations, media should be self-regulating within the framework of law and established institutions. The third recommendation said that when media is trying to maintain its professional standards, how should it do that? It meant that it should be self-regulating. Now, what we mean by self-regulating is that media should be working within a certain law or within a certain framework of law. And what it's meant by the framework of law is that there are certain laws which are made to control this complete freedom, in the sense that the media is, yes, free to publish things, but as long as it is not injuring another person's reputation, or it is not it is not responsible for material damage of another person. यानी कि मीडिया जो है जो अपने प्रोफेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स को मेंटेन करने के लिए उसको एक सर्टेन लॉ को भी फॉलो करना पड़ेगा. और हमारे आपने शायद सुना भी, लॉ ऑफ लाइबल और लॉ ऑफ डेफेमेशन जो है उसका काम ही यही है कि मीडिया जब कोई ऐसी बात पब्लिश करे जिससे कि किसी दूसरे की आदमी की रेपुटेशन ऐसे अंदाज हो तो उसको मटेरियल लॉस भी हो, तो वो चीज़ जो है वो उसके खिलाफ जो है वो लॉ जो है वो आ सकता है और उसके खिलाफ एक एक्शन लिया जा सकता है. सिमिलरली जो मीडिया है वो किस तरह सेल्फ रेगुलेटिंग होगा, उसके जो मीडिया इंस्टीट्यूशन के जो अपने अंदर जो कुछ रूल्स हैं उनको भी वो फॉलो करे. मीडिया शुड अबाइड बाय सर्टेन framework within the media institution also. So this way, media can maintain its professional standards. The fourth recommendation given by this commission was, the media should avoid whatever might lead to crime, violence or civil disorder or give offense to minority groups. So the fourth recommendation was also very pertinent, which said that media should not propagate such things which would be the reason for creating violence in the society, or which would lead to crime in the society or bring civil disorder in the society. यानी मीडिया जो है कोई ऐसी बात ना नशर करे या किसी ऐसी बात की अशात ना करे जिससे कि माशरे में जराइम हो, जिससे कि माशरे के अंदर सिविल डिसऑर्डर पैदा हो जाए, जिससे कि माशरे के अंदर वायलेंस पैदा हो जाए. The fifth recommendation of the commission was, the media as a whole should be pluralist and reflect the diversity of their society, giving access to various points of view and to rights of reply. यानी मीडिया जो है वो प्लूरलिस्ट होना चाहिए. प्लूरलिस्ट को जैसे मैंने पहले भी वजाहत की वो ये है, प्लूरलिस्ट का मतलब ये होता है कि माशरे में जितने भी ग्रुप्स हैं, जितने भी तबकात के लोग हैं, उन सब की आवाज़ जो है वो आपको मीडिया में आनी चाहिए या उनके बारे में आपको मीडिया के ज़रिए मालूम होना चाहिए. और यानी बिकॉज व्हेन मीडिया डज दिस इट रिफ्लेक्ट्स द डाइवर्सिटी ऑफ द सोसाइटी. यानी जब मीडिया के अंदर माशरे के डिफरेंट तबकात के बारे में ख़बर आएगी या उनके बारे में कुछ जिक्र होगा, तो क्या होगा कि हमें ये मालूम होगा कि हमारे माशरे में कितनी डाइवर्सिफिकेशन है, कितने किस्म के लोग मौजूद हैं. और फिर इससे मुराद ये है कि they should have complete access to voice their own opinions also. And this is just not confined to giving expression, to giving certain coverage to this group, but also these groups should also have access to of reply. अगर मीडिया के अंदर इन ग्रुप्स के बारे में कुछ बताया जा रहा है तो फिर इन ग्रुप्स को भी ये हक होना चाहिए कि वो भी अपने बारे में खुद भी इसका इजहार कर सकें. So the fifth recommendation strongly advocated the pluralistic side of the media, and it said that the media should reflect the different groups of the society. The sixth recommendation was, society and the public have a right to expect high standards of performance and intervention can be justified to secure the public good. यानी कि माशरे में जो लोग मौजूद हैं, they expect कि media should give high professional standards, and if they do not, then people have the right to intervene. The people have the right to criticize the media also. because they are expecting high professional standards from the media. ये नहीं है कि अगर मीडिया पे तनकीद करते हैं तो उनको इसका हक नहीं, उन लोगों को इसका पूरा हक है. वो इसलिए हक है क्योंकि वो एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि जो मीडिया है वो अपना काम प्रोफेशनली और हाई स्टैंडर्ड के साथ कर रहा होगा. The next recommendation made by the Commission was journalists and media professionals should be accountable to society as well as to employers and the market. So the media practitioners have to work very efficiently, and the entire onus or the entire responsibility was put on the media practitioners. This social responsibility theory has become a very popular theory, and media practitioners have been taking it quite seriously, and they have been trying to bring out this cultural diversity and pluralism in the media. जब से ये recommendations आई तो media practitioners ने इसको एक seriously लिया और कोशिश ये की कि जो माशरे में जो different तबकात हैं उनकी बातें भी सामने वो लेकर आए. Similarly, in the light of the recommendations made by the Commission, UNESCO had chalked down a few principles of professionalism for media practitioners. Or maybe what you can do now is that you can take out the suggestions that you had made earlier about what role should media play in the society, or what are the things that media should do and what are the things that media should not do. You can compare that with this thing that we are going to do now. UNESCO made 10 recommendations, and they are known as International Principles of Professional Ethics in Journalism. This was the first recommendation that they made. People's right to true information. The right of people to express themselves freely through the media of communication. First, जो उनका principle था वो ये था कि people has a right to true information. True information का मतलब ये है कि हर शख्स के पास ये हक हो कि वो अपना व्यू पॉइंट सामने कर सके. सेकेंड जो प्रिंसिपल था वो ये था, द जर्नलिस्टिक डेडिकेशन टू ऑब्जेक्टिव रियलिटी. दिस एम्स टू प्रोवाइड पब्लिक विद एडिक्वेट मटेरियल टू फैसिलिटेट द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ एन एक्यूरेट एंड कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव पिक्चर ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. सेकेंड जो प्रिंसिपल था वो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है. वो ये था कि लोगों को ये हक होना चाहिए कि वो अपनी फ्रीली राय बना सकें, लेकिन वो राय सिर्फ उस वक्त बना सकते हैं जब मीडिया प्रैक्टिशनर्स उनको मुकम्मल मालूमात फराहम करें. यानी दिस राइट ऑफ द पीपल टू मेक देयर ओन ओपिनियन इज सब्जेक्ट टू दिस पर्टिकुलर फंक्शन ऑफ द मीडिया, वेयर मीडिया गिव्स कंप्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ एनी इवेंट और ऑफ एनी थिंग. यानी अगर मीडिया जो है वो हाफ ट्रूथ बताएगा या आधी बात बताएगा, तो देन इफ यू आर एक्सपेक्टिंग दैट द पीपल विल कम and make their opinion, then that would be incorrect. People have the right to make their own opinion provided they are given full information about a thing. The third principle that was given by UNESCO was the journalist's social responsibility. This emphasizes the fact that journalistic information is social good, not just a commodity. The third recommendation was that the journalists also have a social responsibility. Now, what they meant by social responsibility was when journalists are working in media industry, they are not working in any other industry. They're working in an industry where they have certain responsibilities towards the general public. It's not that they are selling a commodity or a product and they have to have the profit. They must gain profit and they must make such a product which has to sell. It's something more than that. They have a certain responsibility. So it should just not be profit oriented. They have to look beyond this, and they must try to fulfill that social responsibility by not looking at the media industry as any other industry. The fourth principle that was recommended by UNESCO and that is accepted by the international media practitioners was the journalist professional integrity. This deals specially with rights not to work against personal conviction and other matters of personal ethics. The fourth principle dealt with journalists' professional integrity. Now, what is meant by journalists' professional integrity was the journalists should not be compelled or should not themselves do a work which goes against their personal value system or personal ethics. This is called journalistic professional integrity. The fifth principle that was given by the UNESCO was public access and participation. This includes the right of rectification and reply. Fifth principle का मतलब ये है कि अगर मीडिया के अंदर कोई ऐसी बात आ जाती है जो कि लोगों को सही नहीं लगती है, तो लोगों के पास ये हक होना चाहिए कि वो उस बात का जवाब दे सकें और उस बात को करेक्ट कर सकें. यानी मीडिया में अगर कोई बात गलत आ रही है तो people must have the right to correct it and their voice must be given air to. Next principle given by the UNESCO was respect for privacy and human dignity. And this principle said that the journalist should not try to invade other person's privacy or they should not injure other person's privacy. They must respect other person's privacy. यानी कि अगले जो भी कोई शख्स है उसके भी कोई राइट्स होते हैं और उसकी भी एक प्राइवेट लाइफ है और उस प्राइवेट लाइफ में जाके तो उसको तंग करना जो है वो भी प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स के खिलाफ है. सिमिलरली दे मस्ट ऑल्सो बी केयरफुल अबाउट not disrespecting another person. Like when they are covering anything about anybody, they must not damage that man's dignity, or human dignity should always be maintained when covering any information about any person. The next principle was respect for the public interest. This relates to respect for the national community, its democratic institutions and public morals. Seventh principle, which was decided by the UNESCO, was that the press or the media practitioners should also respect the values of the society, and they should respect the morals of this public. They should not publish such a thing or broadcast such a thing which would injure the sentiments of the general public. If they hold something dear, and then the media should not say something which would generally injure or affect the public sentiments about a certain thing. So they should be sensitive about public sentiments. The eighth principle recommended by UNESCO is respect of universal values and diversity of cultures. This calls for respect for human rights, social progress, national liberation, peace and democracy. So the eighth principle said the respect should just not be at national level, it should also be at international level. Like if they are giving coverage to people who do not belong to their country, it should not be done in a humiliating way. They should also be respected. And when you do this you are basically respecting other human beings' rights. So irrespective of whether he belongs to that country or not, if any coverage is given to anybody who belongs to any part of the world, they must be given full respect and their dignity should also be kept in mind, because this will promote peace and harmony in the international communities. So the eighth principle was basically aiming at respecting for universal values which would promote peace and harmony at international level. The ninth principle was elimination of war and other great evils confronting humanity. This calls for abstention from justifying aggression, arms, proliferation, violence, hatred, and discrimination. Ninth principle aimed at taking such measures by the media which would eliminate hatred in the society, which would stop aggression and which would stop arms proliferation and violence in the society. So they should aim at, the media practitioners should be working for bringing peace in the society, for bringing harmony in the society, rather than bringing conflict in the society and violence in the society. The last and the final principle that was given by the UNESCO was promotion of a new world information and communication order. This is directed especially at the need for decolonization and democratization of information and communication. The 10th principle dealt with the new information order, new world information, which basically meant was that there was this danger that the information was only given by the developed countries and the entire information is controlled by developed countries. and they are the ones who are also distributing information, and the developing countries are only at the receiving end. So there is also a need where there should be a balance, where it's not just the developed countries who should be pouring the developing countries with whatever information they want to give in, but the developing countries should also be given an opportunity that their voice be also heard. So even at international level, where you come across such hegemony, where a certain group of countries are controlling the information, this was also being challenged, and this was also being asked to that this thing should also be corrected, where the developing countries should also be given access to, or should also be given an opportunity where their voices can also be heard. These 10 principles were accepted by the media practitioners, and they felt that this thing should be adopted for the general well-being of the society. But unfortunately, what had happened was that although they were accepted, but somehow or the other, the practice of these things were not seen as much as it should have been. And there are many researchers which shows that when it comes to actually applying these principles, when the media practitioners are covering certain news, these principles were not there. And they had the routine work of what is newsworthy and what is not newsworthy was still there. Like newsworthy event जो है, जहाँ पे भी कहीं violence होगा उसको newsworthy event समझा जाएगा, या जहाँ पे भी कोई ethnic discrimination हो रही होगी उसको newsworthy event समझा जाएगा. हालांकि according to these principles, media practitioners should not promote civil disorder, should not be part, or should not just point out the violence in the society. Similarly, अगर माशरे के अंदर किसी extremist group ने कोई बहुत ही इश्तियाल अंगेज बात की है या कोई बहुत ही inflammatory remark पास किया है, तो मीडिया जो है वो उसको बहुत ज़्यादा पब्लिसाइज कर देता है. और देखने में ये भी आया कि उसका जो कॉन्टेक्स्ट है कि अगर एक ग्रुप ने अगर इतनी इश्तियाल अंगेज बात की है तो उसके पीछे क्या वजूहात होंगी, तो दैट इज़ नॉट mentioned or that is not publicized, but what the person has said is publicized, and that can create more resentment in the society, that can bring more restlessness in the society. So the idea is the question that was being posed was that although the principles were there, they were accepted by the media practitioners, when it came to actual practice, or these principles were not reflected. Before we proceed, we do more contemporary normative theories. Let me just briefly discuss the totalitarianism media theory. The reason being that media की जो totalitarianism theory है, that is in a direct conflict with the social responsibility theory. Let's first discuss the major principles of totalitarianism media theory, which are: totalitarianism media theory is a normative theory calling for suppression of pluralistic groups and the use of media under the control of the dominant political party to propagate a strong, centralized political culture. Totalitarianism media theory जो है वो against है pluralistic idea के, जो कि social responsibility theory जो है वो propound करती है. यानी totalitarianism media theory जो है वो ये बार-बार वो ये कहती है कि सोसाइटी में जो डिफरेंट ख्यालात के लोग हैं उन सब के ख्यालात को हमने अशात नहीं करनी, बल्कि एक आइडिया को प्रोपाउंड करना है या एक आइडिया को सामने लेकर आना है, और वो आइडिया यूजुअली रूलिंग एलीट का होता है या रूलिंग पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का होता है. This theory was basically used by Nazis in Germany and by the Soviet communists, and the idea behind was to suppress all pluralistic groups and propagate only one strong centralized political culture. यानी इस थ्योरी का जो मेन मकसद था वो ये था कि हर किस्म के जो डाइवर्स या प्लूरलिस्ट ग्रुप्स की जो भी आवाज़ें हैं, डिफरेंट माशरे में जो डिफरेंट तबकात के लोगों की आवाज़ें हैं उनको बंद कर दिया जाए और एक आवाज़ या एक पॉलिटिकल आइडिया जो है उसको प्रमोट किया जाए. इस चीज़ के लिए जो गवर्नमेंट है वो कंप्लीट कंट्रोल रखती है मीडिया का, और किसी किस्म की भी डिविएंट आइडिया या किसी किस्म का वो ख्याल जो कि रूलिंग एलीट के खिलाफ हो, उसको बिल्कुल सामने नहीं लेके आना है. एंड सो द मीडिया वाज कंप्लीट कंट्रोल एंड इज सपोज्ड टू बी इन कंप्लीट कंट्रोल ऑफ द स्टेट. उसकी जो जस्टिफिकेशन है वो ये देते हैं कि हमने लोगों को एजुकेट करना है, उनको लीड करना है, इसलिए ये ज़रूरी है कि हम उनको एक ही आइडिया दें और उसी की अच्छाई बताएं ताकि वो आगे बढ़ें. और अगर हम उनको बहुत सारी ओपिनियंस और बहुत सारे व्यूज़ बताएंगे तो लोगों के अंदर एक इंतशार फैलेगा और लोग आगे बढ़ने की जगह के बजाय वो पीछे चले जाएंगे. दिस वाज द जस्टिफिकेशन गिवन बाय द टोटलिटेरियन थ्योरी. बट ऑफ कोर्स सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी थ्योरी के जो फॉलोअर्स थे, they were in complete rejection of this thing because they said कि अगर माशरे ने आगे बढ़ना है तो जितनी ज़्यादा डाइवर्सिफाइड व्यू पॉइंट सामने आएंगे उतना ही माशरा तरक्की करेगा. इंशाल्लाह ताला in the coming session we will study the civic and public journalism, which was basically inspired by the social responsibility theory. We will also do media development theory and democratic participant media theory. We will also discuss the certain limitations of the social responsibility theory, and we will try to find out in this new media scene what new things can be developed and what should we expect from the media, or what role should media play in this new media scene. Till then, thank you very much.